I'm Adrienne Rose.
I am Kane Roselle.
And I'm the art.
And I am the science
of transformation.
And we are Coast to Coach.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our wonderful podcast, videocast. I am Adrienne Rose, and I am the art.
And my name is Kane Roselle, and I am the science of transformation.
And today we have with us Mr. Jonathan Sylvester. We're excited to have you, Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm excited too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jonathan Sylvester, I live here in Houston, Texas, with my wife, Elizabeth, and our two furry puppers. And we're actually expecting a baby girl here in September. So I'm really excited about that. And so I'm a health and or fitness and nutrition coach. And I got started with that about 7 years ago. And I know we'll dive into that a little bit more about how all that happened. And so initially I thought that I knew I wanted to do something related to health. And I thought that I wanted to get into maybe like physical therapy or something like that. And it's funny how things work, because what I really enjoyed was the working out part of things. And I went in and I did a little bit of observation and stuff like that, to start getting into physical therapy. And I was just being hit with some roadblocks, and it was kind of like the universe was just telling me, like, this isn't the direction you should be going. And it's funny how things work, because I was sitting there talking with my dad one day, and he's like, well, why you love the fitness part of things? Why don't you just get into personal training? And it's like, wow, like that's the most simple question. Why hadn't I thought of that? And that's where I started to go. So, to keep it simple, I started getting, I went and got a job at a gym, just like at the front desk. And I was like cleaning bathrooms and not even doing anything having to do with training. And found a mentor and another trainer, and I would get up super early in the morning. I would go watch him train clients, and I would just sit there and kind of like, again, observe and see how he did things. He had a pretty successful training business. And then from there, I just started getting certifications and really diving in more. I'm really into like the science and the research and all that stuff, because there's obviously a lot of opinion out there when it comes to health and fitness and nutrition. And, I've kind of learned I really care about, what the science says. And so, just started getting more certifications. And over the years, what I actually did is I built a gym here at our house in our garage. And my wife thought I was a little crazy for that. I said, you know what, I want to get up in the morning. I don't want to commute. I want to train clients right here, and I want to make a living doing it. And that's exactly what happened. And then, so I'm here in Houston, and, we have hurricanes like every year. And so the part of town that I'm in was hit really bad by, well, basically every hurricane that we've had, unfortunately, but really bad by Hurricane Harvey, for instance. Like our part of town gets it worse than pretty much any other area. Luckily, we did not flood like our block or our area. I mean, we had boats flying down our street. I mean, it was pretty crazy. But the reason I mention that is because, I wanted to take things online, because I didn't want to, have a natural disaster or something like that happen and my business just get completely shut down. So I started moving things online probably about four or 5 years ago now. And I still have some clients that I train in person, but most of my business is online now. And so I work with pretty much everyone, but I specialize in working with people that are in recovery from drugs and alcohol and other addictions as well. So yeah, that's me. That's who I am. That's what I do.
I love that. Thank you for what you do, Jonathan. That's very, very important. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's interesting. I actually started my career in the fitness industry as well. When I was 16, started out front desk, and then I went to management, and I was a trainer for quite a while. And then I went into the psychology of the mind. Excuse my fur baby behind me if you just heard him. I got and then about 10 years ago, then I moved into the spirit, so our human spirit. So I absolutely love that. So because obviously you have, that's a lot. I love that you do that, right? What would you say your main message is that you love to share with your clients in the world?
Yeah, I think it's just the message that fitness and nutrition is about so much more than just, getting your ass kicked in a workout or eating super clean or anything like that. And you just mentioned, the spiritual aspect of all of this. And that's something that I didn't really get into, until I started, training and stuff like that. And that's not something that I really shared or talked about with clients early on. But, even putting the spiritual side of this aside, if you just look at the most successful people in the world, I mean, this is just what always comes to mind for me. If you look at, the CEOs, I mean, let's just be real. Like, most people are thinking about this, like thinking about life and success. It means different things to different people, but to a very large degree, it's from a monetary perspective. Okay. So if we just want to stick with that, the people that are making the most money in the world are fit, are healthy. And so, from my perspective, it's, hey, if you want a more successful life, but also, if you want a happier life, then you need to be doing something for your body. You just kind of touched on the mind, body, spirit, aspect of all of this. And I think that's super important. We need to be addressing all of those areas of our lives. And I feel like most of the time, if I'm not feeling like I'm in the right place in my life, or if someone else isn't feeling like they're in the right place in their life, it's very likely that one of those areas is lacking. And a lot of the times it's the physical side of it, and so, I think it's very important that people see that the more that they invest in their health from a fitness and nutrition standpoint, the better life they're going to have, just overall. I mean, we've got unfortunately, this pandemic going on right now. And as I'm talking to current clients and new clients that are coming on, the conversation most of the time right now isn't even about, hey, I'm looking to, I want a six-pack. The conversation isn't about that. The conversation is, I'm stuck at home right now. I'm going a little crazy. And so what I'm saying is, just in that conversation is, hey, our bodies basically have a medicine cabinet built into them. And a really easy way that you can take care of some of that anxiety and all this stuff that you're feeling and feeling a little stir crazy is just by getting active.
Yep.
So I think it's that. I think it's that when it comes to fitness and nutrition and working out and all that stuff, it's not just about building a great physique. It's about building a happy and healthy and to some extent wealthy life.
Absolutely. Well said. Absolutely. I'm a firm believer too, that if we don't have our health, we don't have anything, right? That we cannot have a life that we create without our health. And I know Kane and I, even though we have very different coaching styles, health is a quadrant that we teach. Kane, what do you have to say about that also?
Well, there's no question the value of health when we look at human beings being so perfectly created. It would seem that the mind is a medium between spirit and the physical world. And if you're physically incapable of execution, then you're really, really limited as to accomplishing whatever it is that you're here to do. And physical limitation doesn't have to be paralysis. When we talk about, for example, mind-body coherence, or even just having coherence within the mind, which is a positive byproduct of exercise and meditation, both sides of it, active and in the inactive. So there's no question that body science, including exercise, contribute to well-being in many, many different ways. And so that's the brief summary of what I got to say on that one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
It's really valuable what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. And then I know you touched base too, and if you don't mind me asking, on the sobriety part, that's also part of my journey. So we have a lot in common. So was there a particular powerful part of your story that led you to helping people in sobriety?
Yeah, no, and I'm an open book, and and actually I know, excuse me, some of the people listening to this podcast or watching, they might be in recovery as well, and so I also do. So much of an open book that I do a podcast as well for a group called Sober Nation, and it's called the Sober Nation FM podcast, so they can check that out if they want. But yeah, that is why I'm sitting here with you guys. That is why I do what I do. That's real. It's my story. My sobriety is my story, and I think personally, I just feel like it's important to, even though I have just spilled my whole life story on various platforms and in a lot of different ways, I think that it's important to at least mention it because, there are people that are out there struggling, and if they don't see that other people can get through this and build some kind of a life worth living, then I wouldn't be here today, because I saw that hope in other people, and and that made me feel like I could do something like they were doing. But that being said, I was always pretty much always overweight growing up. I was always the heavy kid, and I was social. I had friends. I was great at baseball. So it's not like I was just totally antisocial or isolated, because I wasn't. But something did always feel a little off. And just to kind of fast forward, when I was about 15, like a lot of kids do, started smoking weed. And that just progressed over the years into other things until, kind of at the peak of my addiction. Before I actually got sober in May of 2013, I was taking about 60 pain pills a day. And, and that's just where my life was. I was completely unhappy. I was super unhealthy. I had, to some extent, thankfully not beyond repair, destroyed most of the important relationships in my life. And, I mentioned my wife, my wife, we were, not married at the time. Thank God. That would have just been, awful. Not good, but we were together at the time. And the fact that we're still together is just an absolute miracle, and, I owe all of this to my recovery. And so, I didn't know at the time anything about setting intentions or anything like that, but it's interesting because I went to treatment in May of 2013, and after I got out, I hadn't had my phone for a while, and I picked up my phone and I had a Google Doc that I had made on my phone, and basically it was like Jonathan's plan for success, and most of it had to do with getting in shape and getting healthy. I'd always wanted that, but I'd never done anything about it. And so, even while I was in treatment, I did things like I would get up early and go out with a group of people and start and jog. I'm not a big jogger or runner these days. Let me just throw that out there. But, I wanted to get active. I was making an effort. This was really the first time in my life, or for a long time, that I decided, I haven't given any real effort to anything. My sobriety, this is going to be it. And that started to translate into getting, physically healthy as well. And, the truth was initially, like, I was unemployable at the time. I didn't have a job. No one should have hired me then, so that's not a surprise by any means, but I had a lot of spare time on my hands. And being in the gym for me really became a healthy way to fill spare time. It became a way for, even though I would be in the gym, and it's still like this today, even though I would be in the gym and maybe I'm jamming some Drake or some rap or something like that, and I'm lifting weights, like it became a way, it became a form of meditation for me, and it became a way for me to, another way for me to connect with my higher power, as odd as that might sound. I think everyone kind of finds their own way with that. But yeah, so I mean, that's really how I got into all of this. And it made me just become open-minded to learning and willing to try new things and willing to listen to people. And I mean, that's really how it all started, is with me getting sober,
That's amazing. I'm really, really happy to hear that, Jonathan. Part of my story too is I lost my mother to alcoholism. So I chose to take alcohol out of my body 10 years ago when I lost her. And I know for her, and I share this very openly to help others, was that she was not able to forgive herself for her past. She had lost a child in a car accident. She was driving the car before I was born, and she never forgave herself. Yeah, she never forgave herself for that. And so in your own experience, and Kane too, how important do you believe forgiveness is, not only, just in all the work that we do?
Yeah, so important. I remember, and look, let me just say that I don't want to say it's still a struggle, but like I was just in a recovery meeting with some guys yesterday, some guys that I'm close to, and so I went through and I'm still involved in a 12-step program. That's just like a major part of my recovery. But so I was in this meeting yesterday, and I was talking about how, I had shared with you guys recently that I don't know if I had this virus or not, but I was sick. I had all the symptoms and so on and so forth. And so like yesterday, like this is not like me. I slept most of the day, and part of because of some new medication I was taking, and I was kind of beating myself up about it, which is ridiculous, but so I'm saying that to say that like there was a big step that I took years ago to do that. But that's still something that I work on today. I even said that part of what I was going to work on this week was being a little more forgiving and not being so hard on myself, and really kind of checking that negative self-talk that still happens sometimes. But, to really answer your question, when I got sober, I was doing like an outpatient treatment type of thing after I had gone to in treatment for 30 days. And one of the assignments that they gave us, and my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous gave me the same assignment, actually. It was to write a letter of forgiveness to myself. And this is just something I'm so grateful for. I think it was just a byproduct of the work that I had been doing in my recovery, and the fact that I really was committed to this and committed to change in my life, that when it came time for me to do that assignment, I was already there. The lady that was leading the outpatient class or whatever, she almost kind of questioned me. The letter was so short. It was essentially, Jonathan, you've done a lot of things that you're not proud of. You've done a lot of things that have hurt a lot of people. You've hurt yourself, but it's time to move on. And that was essentially the letter, and she was almost like, do you think that's sufficient? I'm like, yeah, because that's just where I am with it, So yeah, it's, I work with a lot of people, whether they're in recovery or not. We all have these stories that we write in our minds, which are complete BS most of the time if we look at the facts.
Yep.
And they can continue to hold us back in life, right? And we have to make a decision to push that stuff aside. And like I said, you know, that was almost 7 years ago that I, you know, left that stuff behind. But this is 7 years later, I'm still having to, you know, be aware and conscious of like, hey, that's something I still need to watch.
Yes.
Is these stories creeping in and beating up on myself.
Forgiveness work is enormous. Our paradigms, which are basically a set of unconscious belief systems and habits that we have, start forming right away. You know, when we're little babies, just whatever our environment is, it just gets plunked right into our minds. And unlike the conscious mind, the subconscious mind doesn't have a choice to accept or reject anything. And what happens is time goes on, many years goes on, and we don't even realize that we've got these belief systems. And sometimes what we're shown as a little kid is actually correct even. But what happens is the way that we internalize that experience ends up shaping our perception around it. And this is why self-forgiveness is such an important part of self-love. We all find times when we don't know why we do the dumb things that we do because they don't make any sense. And as it would turn out, if you look back on your life more in a loving, non-judgmental way, saying, you know, I'm such a horrible person, that's a bit judgy, okay? We're all human and we're all in this together. But if you look back in your life in a non-judgmental way and just ask the question, like, why do I do that? That's kind of weird that I do that. Maybe I shouldn't be lashing out at people. Why do I act so strongly to this and not to this? And as you do that and you start to understand yourself and how you came to be as an adult better, you can start to really get into forgiveness, and that's part of self-love.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Absolutely. Well said. I love that. I do. I believe that forgiveness is key for all of us, right? And especially to forgive ourselves. And I know working with my clients, often it's interesting. I do an inventory for forgiveness in my program, and I do friends, family, and then I go, okay, what about yourself? And they all have a reaction. Oh boy, they all have a reaction. So I love how simple that you were able to forgive yourself. That's very, very powerful, because lots of times our mind will make things so much more complex than they need to be.
Yeah. I really think, and I hear, and I think that's so cool you do that. I think that's such an awesome exercise to have people go through. And I like that you leave themselves until last, because they're probably not even thinking about that. And I'm fully aware that when I say, like, I was able to just get to this point of saying, like, that's it, I'm moving on. That's not the case for most people. Like, I get that. I think that one of the things, and this has just been part of my story, and again, this is not like a one-time thing, but what I really had to do, a large part of the reason, not just that I got sober, but that my life started to change, is I really had to flip this switch in my mind that really, for me, it was that I knew everything. I almost, like, I'll call it like the stupid switch. That might not be a great name, but, like, I just had to flip that switch that basically allowed me to be open-minded to new things. Because one of the things that got me in so much trouble for years is I would be the I know guy. We could be talking at, like, when Kane was sharing a minute ago, all that great information he was just sharing on self-forgiveness. And, I would say, yeah, I know. And I didn't know anything about the subject. And, for a long time that got me in so much trouble. And I really just had to get to a point where I could sit back and, I guess just almost like press the restart button on my brain and, allow myself to get some new information, really hear it. And even if someone said, for instance, something that I still try to practice, even if I, let's just say I'm in like a friendly debate with someone and someone says something that I know to be incorrect, instead of just going off on this whole thing, I just try to say, okay.
Yeah.
And just fine. Like, I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, I just really had to like kind of flip that switch and say like, hey, this is it. I'm moving on. And I know that can be difficult for sure.
Yeah. Kane, what do we call that? We have a term for that, right? For people who know everything. I had to get through that too, Jonathan.
Know-it-all syndrome.
Yep.
That's the one that comes to my mind.
Yeah, it does. It blocks us, right, from being coachable and for really even listening. I was told I have my master's in psychology, and I remember the first time somebody told me I knew too much, I was pissed. I was like, how dare you? Oh my goodness. But it was probably one of the best things somebody ever said to me is because like you, and it feels really good too when you're able to let go. I mean, especially when we look at the vast information in the universe, there's no way we can know everything. And today I'm grateful I don't know everything. And I know me personally, of course, I haven't gotten to where I am on my own. What has been your experience? I know you said you're sponsored, but working with other coaches and mentors, has that been a big part of your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, yeah, for sure. And it started, and it really, I mean, again, like everything for me in my life, like everything is just kind of translated from my, my recovery and sobriety. I really think that being able to ask for help is like one of the most important things that anyone can learn. I think a lot of the times we get into this, I think that's awesome that you have your master's in psychology. I mean, that's incredible. And I think that when we accomplish things like that, it's very easy to say, well, I've kind of made it, or like for me personally, if things seem to be going well overall in life, it's like, well, why would I really reach out and ask for help? But again, I don't want to say a lot of the people that I look up to, although I guess I do to some degree, but when I kind of think about the people that I want to strive to be like, and people that are successful in industries or running businesses or just really making a large positive impact, on the world, they are people that are continually learning. And I think a lot of the times we kind of, unfortunately, come from a place of asking for help as a weakness, because we have to admit, I don't know something. And so I remember for instance, for me, I remember specifically when I first started going to the gym, I had just joined a new gym actually. And it was like a Saturday afternoon and there weren't many people in there. And I saw this guy in there and like, man, he just had like the physique that I wanted. Like if I was going to pick a physique out of a catalog, I'm like, man, this guy is in awesome shape. And, he kind of had what I would call the resting gym face on, which I get as well. And it's basically like, don't F with me,
Yeah.
And, but I was like, I saw this guy doing something that I wasn't familiar with really in exercise. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to ask this guy. This has been my experience with asking for help and just like mentorship and the whole thing like wrapped into one is that this guy was more than happy to help me out. In fact, I mean, he was talking to me to the point where I had to tell him like, hey man, I gotta go. Like, I had to kind of cut him off. Uh-huh. But he was more than happy to help. I mean, so yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had health coaches, I've had business coaches. I'm always looking, and that's how I met you guys is, looking for other people to connect with that know things that I don't know. And I think that, if we just, again, if you look at the most successful people in the world, like athletes and stuff like that, they have coaches. I think one of the examples you always hear or people bring up a lot is like Tiger Woods. Incredible. Well, now again, he kind of had his fall from grace for a period of time, but now again, an incredible golfer. He has coaches, he has a coach he works with. So to me, it says it doesn't matter how much you know, how good you are, to what level you achieved in life or whatever it is you're doing, you still need someone to kind of guide you. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that has definitely been a part of my story. And I don't think it'll be something that I ever stop investing in terms of my time or money. I mean, I think a lot of people are hesitant to invest money in this. But again, my experience has been that anything that I've invested in terms of, money into something, those have always been the best investments. Investing in myself has always been the best investment, and so, yeah, I mean, I would encourage anyone that's thinking about, a coach, spend the money. Just spend the money to do it, because it's well worth it.
Amen on that one. I hear you. I'll never go without a coach. That is for sure. I have two personally at the moment, different, talents than I have. And I love it. I will never, ever not have a coach. Absolutely. What about you, Kane?
Same thing. I mean, for one, being a coach, how can I tell people they should have a coach if I don't have one?
Yep.
So it's kind of a practice what you preach. But looking at top athletes in the world, top business people in the world, top coaches in the world, it doesn't matter where we are. It seems that everybody at every level can use some level of either mentorship or somebody watching their blind spots. Because when you're inside the car and you're the driver, you always got blind spots. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And it would be very presumptive to assume that you don't have any, that you got it. Many people feel too like their friends and family are enough. And I would certainly argue that they can be enough to a certain point, but having people that specialize in different things that we all go through in life is valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree big time. I know more recently, probably within the past year, I heard something, and, I think it's a tricky deal because, I think we kind of have this story on our minds a lot of the time that we don't need that extra help, or we don't need to shell out some money for it. And I get it, there have still been times where I'm like, even though I know the benefit of hiring a coach, where I will still question investing in my education or in a coach or something like that. But when looking for a coach, I think one of the best things that I've heard is, when you're looking for a coach or when you're trying to decide on someone, look for someone that has whatever it is you want, the thing that you're trying to figure out, in abundance in their lives. And I think, Adrian, we were talking the other night, and you kind of said, and this has been my experience too, we were talking about, intuition. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, hiring people, you didn't it wasn't even a question. You had already decided, I'm going to work with this person. And the last business coach I worked with, I started listening to his podcast. I saw what he was doing. I got on the phone with one of his people that was, basically a salesperson. I'm like, look, just tell me what I need to do. You don't need to sell me on this thing, and but it is a business, and I think once you can kind of get past the whole block in your mind of well, this person's going to be making money off of me, yeah, you're paying them because they're good at what they do. They've been getting these results for other people. That's how they make a living. And that's the person that you should be hiring. That's the person that you should be, because they're going to get you the results that you want, and so I think that's important to, to keep in mind. But I get why that block is there,
Yeah. Yeah. We're just not conditioned, right? We're not yet. It's my hope that eventually everybody will be conditioned to, invest in themselves in this way. It's interesting. I had a enrollment call with somebody a while ago, and he, he definitely has the financial abundance to do this. And he basically said he wasn't going to do it. And it was interesting because what came out was that he's not conditioned to invest in himself this way. And I, with love, called him out. I said, but you're a single guy who just bought a third car. And we all know cars are like the worst investments on the planet. So you're conditioned to buy 3 cars, but you're not conditioned to invest in yourself. And I told him that's okay. Most of us aren't, right? And of course, he didn't like that very much. But sometimes as coaches, we have to say those uncomfortable things to people. But it's, it's my hope that eventually more and more and more of us will be conditioned to invest in ourselves, because in my opinion, it's the most important investment we can ever make. Because if you work with any of us, right, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or a year, that information is going to stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you got it. So we're just about out of time. So with that, Mr. Jonathan, how can people best find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can visit RCVRhealth.com, Recover Health, and they'll see there on the website that there's a little video just with me introducing myself. But I provide fitness and nutrition coaching to everyone. I do specialize in working with people in recovery, but most of my clients right now, as we speak, are not in recovery. And so I provide, custom plans for them based on what they're trying to achieve. None of this is cookie cutter stuff. And I provide all my services through an app that I actually have that's pretty awesome that my clients love. So, if they're interested, they can go to rcvrhealth.com, fill out an application to work with me. We'll hop on a call. And, my thing is it's got to be a good fit on both sides, and so we'll hop on. If it's a good fit, great. And if not, I can at least point them in the right direction to some things that would benefit, what they're trying to achieve and help them achieve that.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much. And yeah, that's very important. Kane and I do the same thing, that if we're not the right fit, especially that's part of the reason we do this, right, is to expand all the coaches, difference makers we know in the world to get people in the right hands, because there's truly magic that happens with the right fit of mentor and coach. Absolutely. Or mentor and client, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you got it. Kane, any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, nothing specifically. It was amazing to hear your story, and health and fitness is so important. Recovery is so important. So it was great just to listen and absorb.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It was great.
Oh yeah, no question. Our viewers would just get so much out of having a conversation with you, maybe signing on, checking out your podcast, all the many different ways, wonderful work you do in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
If you can say coast to coach. Adrian.
Yeah, it's our little thing, Jonathan. Adrian cannot say coach to coach.
Coach to coach.
I still can't say it. Someday, some way, I'll say it. So
you'll get it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we decided we're gonna laugh at Adrian. I love laughing at myself. I think it's important. So
yeah, absolutely.
So coast to coach. Nope.
There you go.
All right.
You got it.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for having me on. I guess I'll see you Tuesday.
Yay.
Right on.
All right. You guys have a good weekend. Bye.
You too.